So a few things that I wanted to help some people out with was the idea of the tension and stress that people build in their upper back and sometimes their lower back. It all kind of is one big chain of chaos that happens whenever we don't take care of these areas. A lot of this comes from sitting, a lot of this comes from the ergonomics of what we do day to day. For example, if you're sitting at a keyboard most of the day, you're hunched over, you subconsciously fall into that pattern, you start resting your elbows forward. It's natural. It's what we call our body's secondary positions, meaning that, rather than being in that position and engaging the muscles that are the primary strength that you should be using, we end up in those secondary positions relying on the hinging mechanics of a lot of the structure that we have. So all that to say that there's a few common things that I see with my clients, a few common problem areas, and I'll try to address these in the series of videos that I'm going to start with today. This one is going to be about the upper back. If you're hunched over a lot, I have one specific client who does a lot of work like this. If you're like in a lab, you're over a microscope, if you're gardening, things like that, that upper back area can get really bothersome. So one of the things that I want you guys to think about is the idea of counterbalancing the musculature on both sides of the body. So the upper back, whenever we come forward, the muscles on the back lengthen, the muscles on the front shorten, okay? Chest muscles, back muscles, length and shortening, that over time develops into a position that kind of stays pretty consistent. So your muscles stay short on one side and stay long on the other side. So then the problem where that really becomes a problem for people like us as your trainers is, you want these great workouts, you want them to be really intense, and we do train the muscles on the front and the back. But if you're already in this forward position and we start to push, those anterior muscles, your chest muscles, with your basic push movements, push-ups, bench press, dumbbell press, things like that, it's only going to perpetuate that position, right? So not that you shouldn't work them, but you should definitely be offsetting some of those issues. So what I like to tell people is that you need to lengthen the front and strengthen the back, okay? Not that you're not strong there, but you're compromised. So whenever you're hunched over like this and then you try to pull with these muscles, you're not getting the full range that you should. You're not engaging them the way that they should be engaged, right? And you end up just stiff and tight like this. I'm exaggerating that, but that's definitely something that I want you guys to think about. So my recommendation is, when you're at work, you should be doing a few things. You should be obviously standing up pretty regularly. I like to set a timer for about 45-50 minutes. I try to put an hour of work at my desk before I get up and start to move around. I think that's good practice for most people. Set your timer 45-50 minutes, take a 5-10 minute breather, get up, stretch, things like that. But even more so than that, you should be opening up the chest muscle. So I'm going to show you a few tricks that you can do at work or wherever you're at, as long as you have a door frame. Actually, before we go into the door frame aspect, a few things that you do before that is things that you kind of do naturally and instinctively. Whenever you sit for too long, what is the first thing you do? You kind of start to stretch, do all this. Understand that that's your body's way of saying, hey, we've been sitting here for a while. I want to get out of this position. I don't feel very good here. So listen to your body, but let's start doing it with intentionality, okay? Make sure that whenever you're opening up, that your body is opening up with intention here, and that you are squeezing your butt and opening up here, okay? A lot of people will just kind of like back bend like this, but the thing about your core, the thing about your back is that if you don't protect your back with your glutes, you're going to start to strain your lower back, okay? So from this position here, make sure that you tighten up your glutes, lean back, and you should feel most of the tension on the front side of your abdominal wall, okay? So make sure you're here. If you want to reach overhead even more, that'd be great. And then opening up the arms as best as possible, reach up in a Y pattern, that's ideal too, okay? So once you've opened up the chest, okay, remember you should be doing that pretty regularly. As I said, set a timer. We tend to forget about these things, take breaks. You can't offset 8 hours of shortening muscles with, you know, an hour of exercising, which the majority of that time probably isn't spent on mobility and flexibility and things like that. So remember, you should really be doing this throughout the day so that you don't have to fight that later on. It will make for worse workouts. You won't feel very good. In fact, one of the things that I've noticed is that whenever I started focusing in on these things and, you know, opening up the musculature, mobilizing the joints, things like that, my workouts felt better. It's weird to say that they didn't feel as hard. Like the muscles still work, but like I didn't feel like bogged down. It's almost like releasing the parking brakes, right? So remember to do that. The other thing that I want you to think about too is that not only do you open it up with intention, you know, engaging the muscles as I just demonstrated, you could also do it with some resistance. You can find a doorway, okay? Make sure that your arm is in line with the door first, okay? And then from there, slowly and with intention, just start leaning away, okay? This is a pretty common stretch. It's pretty simplistic, and that's why people don't do it. People don't realize how much benefit you get just by using the leverage of a door frame to open up the chest. And this gets into everything. It gets into your chest muscle here, it gets into your shoulder joint on your shoulder muscle on the front, your biceps, your forearms, all this stuff. So even things like, you know, typing, that tightens up the forearms and the extensors and the flexors in the forearms. Very beneficial to have all this musculature. And all you have to do is switch to the other side and make sure that you even it out, right? Chances are, especially if you've had a shoulder injury or, you know, you're dominant on one side for your job, you're probably going to feel tighter on one side. It's pretty common, not a big deal. Just make sure that you're putting just as much, if not more, focus on that side whenever you are whenever you're stretching that out, okay? So again, we've gone over making sure that you're opening up the abdominal wall, the chest, you know, making sure that your joints have free reign, and then open it up with the leverage of a door frame. That's going to give you a ton of benefit. So we've gone over a few things that you can do very passively, very easily, no equipment required. A lot of it is just habits, right? You know, make sure that you're keeping track of how much time you're spent in certain positions, offsetting them by, you know, reversing those motions and, you know, getting some blood flow into that musculature and those joints. Then we started using leverage from the door frame. That's something that you'll have access anywhere. That's pretty easy to do. Now, if you want to take it a step further and you want to invest a little bit, and in fact, not much of a big investment, anybody and everybody that I've ever seen that has bought equipment or, you know, fitness equipment for home, things like that, I feel like 8 out of 10 people have a foam roller. Most people have seen them. Most people have tried to use them, things like that. I will do some more focused instruction on this when it comes to using the foam roller, but today I want to be very specific with what you can do with the foam roller, and I'll demonstrate how we can benefit from that. So I've got a few foam rollers here. They were originally called foam rollers because they were, I believe, originally made out of foam. They have since evolved to different types of materials, different versions of this. This is your most standard one. It's not really made out of foam. It's kind of this packing material, and there's different densities. There's different firmness to them. Your average one is going to be middle of the road. So whenever you find one on like Amazon or Walmart or something like that, they'll be pretty standard. So don't overthink it. If it's going to be too much, I would encourage you to look for an actual foam one made out of foam. The only bad thing about that is that I had an original foam one and I destroyed it pretty quickly. It warped, you know, my body. I'm not a small guy. My body weight just destroyed that thing. But for some people, that might be what you need. I've heard even of some people using things like pool noodles. I think like some elderly type people would use pool noodles and things like that, but nothing I've ever done, but definitely something to think about. So this is your standard one. They have a smaller version of this, kind of a half size. And if you have like your own private office that you can like close and use while you're at work, this would be a good option to keep. You can also travel with it. Definitely a good option. Just to give you some idea of some of the other options out there, this is kind of a fancy one. This has some structures that are supposed to line up with the musculature that lines up on opposite sides of your spinal column. They're called your erector spinae. All you have to understand is that they go up and down on either side of your spine. So this is meant to kind of target those a little more focused. Again, this isn't absolutely necessary, but if it's something that you enjoy, absolutely. I've got a client who really enjoys this, so he's got one for himself at home. He likes to use it while we're here. This one, I never have liked these. I know some people really enjoy it. There's this idea that like because it's more aggressive, because it's like doesn't feel very good, it's going to be better for you. Hey, if you enjoy the texture of this, if you enjoy how it feels, perfectly fine. What my goal with the foam roller, anytime I'm doing any kind of muscle manipulation, is to take that tissue, make it more pliable, make it smooth. So for me, that's more like a meat tenderizer. If that's what you're looking to do, perfectly fine. I haven't looked into the science of what benefits that would have, or if it doesn't have benefits, whatever. I just know that superficially, this will give you that smooth tension, that smooth pressure wave that you need for your musculature for our goals. Knots tend to, be, gummed up. They tend to gum the muscle up. So this is my way of just kind of using a foam roller to essentially use it like a rolling pin on your body, the way you use rolling pin on dough. There's a bunch of different ways that you can use the foam rollers. There's a bunch of different areas that you can target. Today we're going to just talk about the upper back. This is the area from the bottom of your neck somewhere down to under your shoulder blades. This is where people tend to get tight. Your rhomboids, the muscles between the shoulder blades, tend to get really stretched and lengthened. They get tense. So if you're anybody who has this type of job, these type of ergonomics in your day-to-day, you'll probably feel this pretty quickly. So the way that you set this up is you lean up against it, you position that foam roller somewhere where your shoulder blades are, somewhere in the middle. From there, you're going to put pressure into your heels, lift your hips off the floor, and now you've got all this upper body pressure on the foam roller. And you're just doing small movements, okay? Looking for tension, looking for anything that feels tight. Again, if you're somebody who struggles with upper back tension, this is going to probably be instantaneous. Now, another way you can optimize this is I like to give my rib cage a hug, and that opens up the musculature a little bit better. The other thing I like to do is reach overhead. And then another one is the T position. So this is there's no real wrong way to do this. You're just kind of looking for the tension in your upper back. Again, if you're somebody who has that tension up there because of your day-to-day tasks, this is going to be something that is going to be very beneficial for you. So this is something that you can add on to your daily habits. This isn't going to solve all of your pains, aches, and things like that. If you're working against years of bad positioning, bad posture, things like that, it's going to take some time. These are just things that you need to do to offset some of these things. Your daily habits of standing up, your daily habits of stretching your upper body, your daily habits of using the door to open up the chest more, along with this, will improve over time that tension. But you have to also incorporate things like regular exercise so that as you get that length in your upper body on the front side, you get the strength on the back side. Okay, so these are just a few things that you should be doing day to day. Let me know if this helps, if there's anything more that you would like to include, and hopefully this gives you some relief.